Okay, look at that. Roots on every single one. What's going on, everyone? Kevin from Epic Gardening here. We're hanging out with my Ceropegia woodii, or string of hearts, rosary vine, chain of hearts. It goes by many names. I recently put a video out on how to care for this, and a lot of you wanted a propagation video. This is actually one of the easier plants you can propagate. Not only does it grow vigorously, it's put on at least a foot of growth since the last video I put out, which wasn't that long ago. So it's a fantastic plant that you can prune and propagate and then start new pots, give them to friends, or just add even more string of hearts to your garden. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna go through the easiest method that I personally found, which would be water propagation. Very simple process. And by the end of this video, you will see the rooted cuttings be potted up into a new pot. So make sure and stay tuned. Let's go ahead and get to it. So here we have the growing tip. And then as we go this way, this will connect all the way up to the soil. So this is the tip, and this is the tip over here. What you'll want to do is cut right above a set of leaves, like right about there, with some clean, sterilized snippers. And you have a section just about this long. Now what's really important here is that you need somewhere to store the tip that you want to root. So this is going to go into the water. So if you put the leaves in the water, they're just gonna kind of rot out. So there's no real point in doing that. I may also snip this one off because of the way that I'm gonna root mine in water. I just want a little bit of extra room, but that's pretty much it. This is now prepped and ready. And so we can go ahead and put this into the system, but I'm gonna go ahead and prepare a couple more cuttings. So we have 6 of our prepared Ceropegia woodii string of hearts cuttings. Now this crazy machine is a water propagator, but I want to show you the more basic way that you could do it as well. You can have simple glass jar, really anything that will hold water that's not super deep will do just fine. So you could fill these up with water and just slip a cutting in. You're gonna wanna go the trimmed side down because that's where you want the roots to develop. But I personally, in my experience and just my preference, the aeroponic propagator works a little better for me, but for all intents and purposes, it is a water propagating method. So don't stress that I'm using this crazy high-tech machine. You can completely just put it in a jar, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do this just for simplicity's sake, and because of course I have a bunch of different cuttings already going in here. So once I turn this on, there's going to be water being sprayed at the bottom of the roots. So these ones have a little neoprene collar. I'm just gonna slide that in, and then I will plop it in, make sure it's nice and secure. And that's all there is to it. So sometimes, and it really kind of depends on the health of the cutting, and just sometimes it's a bit of randomness, how quickly it's going to root. Oftentimes you'll see baby roots begin to develop in about 8 to 12 days or so, and then at that point you can go ahead and start to throw them into pots, which we're going to discuss once we check back in on these in a couple of weeks. But yeah, it's a pretty simple process, guys. This is one of the many plants that you can propagate via stem tip cutting, which is what we just did. The tip of the stem, the growing tip, we cut off and we're gonna propagate it. So it's one of those plants, and stem tip cuttings are far and away your easiest method of propagating. High success rate, very easy to prep and prepare the cutting itself, not a lot of maintenance to do. So again, a really popular and easy beginner plant to propagate, so highly recommend it. So as we put this last one in here, I would just say, you know, if you're thinking about becoming a houseplant owner and maybe leveling up a little bit in your houseplant care, this is a really great way to get your feet wet with some more advanced plant care techniques, propagating them, right? Not only does it actually save money, you can create as many string of hearts as you want after you propagate enough times, but it's really fun, a bit more of like the sciencey aspect of gardening, which I personally enjoy a lot. And I just think that it gives you that deeper experience of being around plants and experiencing and enjoying plants. And then when you go out in the edible garden, which I like to do a lot of, this knowledge really can help you a lot with your propagation, your seed starting, and all that. So we're set up. We're gonna go ahead and check back in a couple weeks. Stay tuned. It's day 3. We are gonna check on our Ceropegia woodii. Look at that. We're getting rooting in 3 days on a string of hearts, which is traditionally a pretty slow rooter. So let's take a look at some of these other ones. Nothing on this guy yet. He's looking a little wilty. He was also a double stem. So look at that. There's one right there. Any of these that are wilting a bit, yeah, I'm not too optimistic about those. Maybe there's too much leaf tissue. Maybe I put a little bit too much on there, but look, there's Most of these have baby roots coming out. Some of these are a little slow, so we're gonna keep checking and we'll be back. It's been a couple more days. It is time to check and look at that. We've got 2 nice roots coming out of this one. Let's see this guy here. This one's got 2 as well. So it looks like the rooting has gone. It's just a little slower than some other plants. It starts and then it takes a while for them to develop to this size. Let's check on this double one here. That actually started to develop, which was really slow. That maybe took 2 weeks. This guy here is doing really well. Look at that. Actually, this is our most promising one for sure. This guy back here, also working. Okay, look at that. Roots on every single one. I'm really pleased about that. Honestly, a couple of these I didn't think would root. Giving them some time here in the Easy Clone worked out. So now we're gonna pop these out. We're gonna put them in a new pot and I'll discuss some of the things to consider. All right, we have our soil. I'm gonna put them in a relatively large pot because what you can do is you can take one of your string of hearts cuttings out, and then when you pot it up, you can actually kind of wrap it. And so you can take it and put it in a little depression right here, and then you can just lay it around like this, and you may actually spur on some more rooting, which then will start to trail. So maybe a little bit of a setup process, but I'm definitely going to pack this thing full. So let's zoom in and do a little close-up. Okay, so you guys can see we have one of these right here. I'm just gonna make a little depression in the soil here. And we'll make this nice little root a new home. And then we're gonna lay it just like this. We can have it kind of trail a little bit over the side, but it's still a relatively short cutting, and we want to let it establish and then grow. And so what I'm going to do is just take the rest of mine out here. We'll put our other ones back in. Let's just see what we're working with, and then we can lay them all out. So what I've noticed is with string of hearts cuttings, they can just be a little sensitive, but once they're in and established, like you saw in my string of hearts care guide video, they just go absolutely crazy and the growth is insane. So with if you're very careful on your setup and your propagation and you have a little patience, which is kind of mandatory if you're a gardener, then you are going to have really promising and profitable results here. So I'm just laying them out just to see how many I have, how long they are, where I want them to go. And this pot is kind of a long-term investment. See how much we can get out of this 6 string of hearts cuttings that we have. And this one, as it falls to the ground here, is probably our most risky cutting because I did leave an offshoot of the stem when I propagated, and so you can see the root development was a little bit slower, but that's not the worst thing in the world. It may not take, it may take, that's part of the fun of this, we'll see. But let's go ahead and get the rest of these in now. I'm gonna try to just evenly spread them out. This one has a root right here and right here. So I'm gonna make sure that both of those are underneath the soil. And honestly, it's pretty simple from here on out. You just have to make sure you keep it well watered. These were rooted in, again, in an aeroponic system, so they're not quite as used to that super soaked water as you would do in like a water propagation method, but it'll still work. And in fact, they may take a little bit better to soil, because I found sometimes when you water propagate completely submerged in non-oxygenated water, sometimes the plants don't really take as well to soil as you would like, and then you can get kind of mad. I don't know, you guys may have seen my propagating pothos video, which was the first propagation video I ever did for houseplants, and I noticed in that one a lot of people were saying my cuttings didn't take. Sometimes that's because you leave them in the water too long and they just can't really thrive outside, and sometimes it's just randomness. The plant just wasn't quite healthy enough, cutting wasn't just quite healthy enough. But I found that when I'm doing it this aeroponic method, they do seem to take a little bit better when transplanted. So that's what I'm hoping for here. And we'll put this little guy right in the middle. This is a sandy standard cactus mix that String of Hearts really prefers. So good drainage, it's not sitting in tons and tons of water. And this is definitely a little underplanted, but that's okay. We'll just let this grow in. So what I'm gonna do now is just make sure I give it a nice deep water, especially this first time, as this soil is not very hydrated, and the plants are, of course, used to a little bit more moist of an environment than they would normally be getting in soil. So definitely going to give them a nice healthy water. I do have an entire video on watering your container garden plants, all the things that you need to consider, the variables to keep in mind. But that's pretty much it, guys. At this point, we want to locate it in an area that gets a decent amount of light, just the same as you would locate your normal string of hearts plants. I may actually opt to put mine underneath some grow lights at the beginning of its life, but we're good to go here, and we're looking really strong. So there we have it. Our string of hearts has been propagated. Of course, this is quite a big pot for the ones that I've done, but I plan to propagate some more and actually add some more into this, so giving it some room to grow. And all those were taken off of the one that you see behind me right here. This one is the mother, and it's the one that I've taken quite a few propagations off of, as well as moved around a lot, and it's just thriving. So once you get a string of hearts established, it will stay that way for quite some time. This one is over 7 feet, 8 feet, 9 feet long, and just keeps on going as long as you keep caring for it. And again, I have a guide on that as well on the channel. So until next time, guys, good luck in the garden and keep on growing.